here, Tom's here, Meg's here, Barb's here, Chuck's here, Ricky's here, Jim's here. Anything for public comment this evening? Briefly, I have two proclamations of recognition that were by request of various individuals for some celebrations that are coming up. So I'll quickly read through them. I'll ask for a motion and then to make some presentations this week. The first one is a proclamation of recognition, and we've done this one before for the women's hockey team. So on Saturday, March 16, 2019, the SUNY Plattsburgh Cardinals women's hockey team defeated the University of Hamilton Pipers in a historic shutout, captured the NCAA Division III Women's Ice Hockey Championship. Whereas it is the 7th national champion in history of the program and the Cardinals' 5th in 6 years, and whereas the dynamic duo of Coach Houle and assistant coach Danielle Blanchard have built a dynasty program, all while instilling in the team the qualities and skills necessary to foster the highest level of achievement and athleticism, academics, and social and emotional well-being, whereas the Cardinal women's hockey team, as well as SUNY Plattsburgh, is a point of pride for citizens of the greater Plattsburgh region, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board wishes to congratulate the hard work and dedication of all members of the team, their coaching staff, and their families. Be it further resolved that the Town Board also encourages our community and its local businesses to demonstrate their support for the members of the team and their coaching staff in recognition of this achievement and their work as good ambassadors for SUNY Plattsburgh, Greater Plattsburgh region, the Adirondack Coast, and the state of New York. I would consider a motion.
I think that the reason we've done it the other years was because they keep winning, which is nice.
Correct. Yes.
We all sign them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Traditionally, resolutions or proclamations don't. They're more honorary, but is there a motion for adoption?
I'll move that.
Okay. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Hubert. All right. All's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then I'll have a document for folks to sign before you leave.
Yeah, they think they're only losing their top scorer and their second. Yeah.
And
Still
actually,
have some people coming back.
Tonight too, they just named a new head coach for the men's hockey team, Steve Moffett. So I don't know Steve Moffett. He's I think a 1998 graduate.
Yes.
And Bob Emery is retiring. I think after 40 years.
He was an
He's been around for a long time.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're doing an event for him or anything, but if they ask for something, I'll let you know. Proclamation of recognition, whereas the Plattsburgh Noon Kiwanis was chartered on April 11th, 1929 by the sponsorship of the Kiwanis Club of Ticonderoga, whereas later they would sponsor the Kiwanis Club of the Plattsburgh Breakfast and Kiwanis Club of Saranac Lake, whereas the Plattsburgh Noon Kiwanis has a legacy as a hands-on service club making a difference by addressing the needs of our children and community, whereas the club contributions include support of area organizations and projects such as Dictionary Project for third graders, Camp Kiwanis, Campership for children of military families, Clinton Community College, and SUNY Plattsburgh Scholarships, Kiwanis One Day Food Drive, Kiwanis One Day asked every Kiwanis club globally to do a service project on the same day benefiting the Interfaith Food Shelf, Cuddle Up and Read, giving children in the backpack program a full bag of books and a fleece blanket to encourage literacy, and given pediatric trauma kits to area ambulances hosting community meals at Trinity Church. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board does hereby proclaim the date of April 13, 2019 as Plattsburgh Noon Kiwanis Club Day to coincide with their anniversary celebration in appreciation and acknowledgement of good works achieved and still yet to come. We do hereby call upon the citizens of the Town of Plattsburgh therefore to render support to this organization to make themselves aware of the Plattsburgh Noon Kiwanis Club and meaningful and good deeds. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion to that effect? Austin, is there a second? Second. All right, I will. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. I have a copy for you folks there. That's the big items right now. I'll be having a Clinton County Supervisors Association meeting in the next couple of weeks where we'll continue to talk about shared services in a rather non-formal way. Don't know when the next formal shared services meeting is yet, or it doesn't come to my mind. So, as always though, if you think of topics, issues, concerns in particular with that, it's a good opportunity for me to have face-to-face conversations with the other supervisors you know, ask for some materials and stuff, so.
Did they still, I noticed a couple of the towns went together for dog control. Is that still a?
It's still something that I'm pursuing. For draft, nothing is on the docket this evening for consideration to vote, but in your packet, you have draft minutes, monthly reports, boundary utility survey from ADS. The one item that I do want to spend just a couple of extra moments on, because we've spent a considerable amount of conversation in various pockets, including when we have a new counselor, often we talk about, you know, how things done procedurally, et cetera. You know, Barb, when she first came on, we were talking about HR services. When Chuck came on, we started talking about HR services again. The public sector HR firm, which is the one that's doing the salary calibrations, she came here recently to begin that process. I had a lengthy conversation with Ronnie about possibly using her firm for actual HR services. I'm confident that this will meet our current needs, and I think that we need to do an ongoing assessment, you know, from talking with Association of Towns and colleagues around the county and such. But again, Nikki and Pat are not HR experts in that arena. I think that the model that we've used has gotten us to where we need to be, but the town does need these services more hard-lined with a service like this. I'm not convinced that we need to have an on-site HR director every day, but this service, I think, will meet that needs.
So isn't that something you were going to discuss with shared services
Yep,
as well?
yep. So that's why, but we keep bumping along, and just because something's a shared service doesn't mean that we get to share it with someone else if they're not interested. So I want to have a starting point. So this is draft.
And then can you go into a little bit salary calibration and what she did with that?
Sure. So she presented the survey to them. What will eventually happen is the comparison with other municipalities. They have to do a self-report about what they're doing in their job performance. And then the next portion of it will go to the department heads to basically verify, is this the type of work that they're actually doing? From there, it will then go to her to get kind of cataloged, for lack of better terms. Then she'll be back to do on-site interviews. Because as we know, sometimes when something is in writing versus what someone is actually doing can be it's a deeper dive opportunity. From there, it is finding kind of where people should be, or maybe where they are at. Some people may be on the upper, scale of things.
Did department heads do it as well?
All department heads and all non-union. Okay, except for part-time. So our part-time employees did not do it.
So who is going to review the department heads then? Are you going to review the
I will
department
review it,
Okay.
and then I will pass it to the personnel committee as well for an opportunity to preview it as well.
And I did read through her survey. That's very, very in-depth, so there's a lot of good material.
Yeah, it's about 18 pages.
Yeah.
Michael, do you have and you may have had this information, but with this proposal, do you have a deeper dive in terms of sort of a resume summary or expertise summary on
You should have had it originally when we used her for the
salary?
The salary
Yeah,
calibrations and stuff. Yeah, I'm getting one.
Yeah, I'd be glad to hear some input from our personnel liaison folks, Chuck and Meg, on this proposal.
Do
Any
we
thoughts?
know, she states in the proposal that they provide services to 300 municipalities. If we had contact, or
I was going to
reach
ask
out?
for, that's why this is only a draft and I'm not bringing it for consideration tonight.
And I mean, personally, I think shared services ultimately is the way to land with this. But I certainly, reading through the proposal, feel that this is a good bridge until we get to that point. And I think it relieves from the folks, the team members that we have
Sure.
in the building right now that are kind of doing double and triple duty in areas that they really don't have the expertise.
Yeah, and I'll give you a firm example of when she was on site, a question that I asked because I wanted to kind of gauge where she was at. I said, the standard for some of the training for sexual harassment, et cetera, who needs to be trained? Because the statute has changed. And Pat and Nikki and I have gone to some of the training at the chambers, and one of the presenters said, your employees. And then we asked, well, what about our volunteers? Zoning board, planning board, I mean, through the whole lineup. And we have gotten mixed opinions and references. She has said every municipality that she is working with, her recommendations is to standardize it for all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, she didn't say, I'll get back to you, and she was talking about methodically how you can do some of these things. So for us to be able to go through that, we have deployed FMLA standards here over the last several years because that has become a bigger thing. But it is a very complicated item. To look at the flow chart for FMLA, I mean, you've seen them. I mean, they're,
absolutely.
you know, we need to have somebody that knows our employees as much as they know the process, because each situation can be kind of that zebra of it's similar, right, but it's not quite the same.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the proposal's worthy of consideration. I do think, though, the shared services model, I think we still need to stay on top of that, because I do think that that's worthy of, consideration.
Well, and I would agree, I mean, ultimately, if you have that face in front of you versus trying to, you certainly understand with shared services, they're not gonna be here 5 days a week, they may be here a couple days a week someplace else, but I still think to have that sit down across the table, this is great, but I think that's even better.
Still with, I mean, as far as the sexual harassment stuff, I mean, people were able to come to a session that was led here and also to do it online. Would that still be
We're getting some clarity on some of those things as far as some of the tools, though, because even the Department of Labor has, how do I want to say it? They interpret some of their own standards in some unique ways. So we want to make sure that we're using all the tools appropriately into standard, and it becomes something where just because we have an on-site training on a day that's mandatory for people still get sick. People's kids still get sick. I mean, there's a number of things that we need to do to.
Well, to me, it's a monumental task to get all of our volunteers, all of our, different boards, everyone to go through this. And so if there were different avenues for them to
The
get
college does it online. You're already online. So.
Yeah. But I'd rather do it right the first time. You know what I mean? And create a model. A lot of times, people end up doing these trainings, and then because one item could be missing from the training, it could be a 90-minute session that you did. You don't just get to go back for that 15-minute portion. You know what I mean? It wasn't valid. So I want to make sure that we're using the right tools, and we need some guidance.
Okay.
From the compliance standpoint, Michael, will this firm follow up on those matters? In other words, when we have compliance training, and what happens is not everybody can take the training. So you have to do some diligent follow-up. Will they be responsible for making sure that our
They will work with
employees?
us to identify the tools that we want to use, whether they are on site, whether we use online tools. They will help us identify a variety of things.
Okay. But to follow up and making sure that that mandate is met, that the employees that are, you're gonna have employees that aren't gonna take the training, they weren't around, and so there's 5 or 6 of the folks that are still outstanding.
From an accounting perspective?
Compliance, actually.
Compliance,
Yeah.
we will have to do some of the internal sign-ins and stuff. So we'll have to do some tracking still. That will be still some of our responsibility.
And I think from the safety committee side too, I think, we've talked about, some online, and I think this is gonna group right into that, because I think you're gonna find that many of those, state mandated trainings are there, and they're gonna be there, and I think that can work in with this and really tighten it right up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's, talking about shared services, just as, kind of using that as our launching pad, I think a lot of times we often think of shared services with other municipalities, but their opportunities can also include the fire departments. The school districts are a little bit tougher, the way that New York State has created, but there may be some methods that SUNY Plattsburgh or Clinton Community College is using with some of their online materials that we can plug and play. So we're gonna explore what meets the most or meets our needs. So, and honestly, I've been putting a lot of time and energy into this. This was one of the primary reasons I went down to Association of Towns, just to talk about how are people navigating some of this stuff. I mean, in almost every, not every workshop, but a lot of the workshops, I should say, people touched on it like in a little tiny way because it's a point of connection somewhere else. Safety is a good example.
But I know from the fire service side, when you look at new state regulations, mandates, et cetera, sometimes it's several years before you have full clarity on
Yes.
what exactly they're looking for.
Yeah. So, last thing is request to purchase a 2009 sweeper for an upgrade from the 1976 model.
Were you born then, Michael?
Crazy.
No,
Wait.
I was
That was my
not.
start off.
Rub it in.
I was not.
I always do that so you can rub it in.
And just to put it in perspective,
Yeah.
not only was
very old, though.
I not born,
You weren't even thought of.
I was 4 years out.
Yeah. I have some comments, but I wanted to.
Well, the highway department has done well with their machinery to get from that.
You know, and
But
one
we
of
were very old.
and one of the things that I want to say, this is not finger wagging at Woody or Jim at all. Every superintendent, when they go through, they're looking at their machines a little bit differently, and Tim, and also, actually, I would argue that Jim was doing this, and what Tim's done is taken the mantle and just continued to, move this progression from this, which is really good, and they're pretty methodically going through their equipment and their materials, and thinking about how do we make sure that when we get good purchases, that we can, protect them and nurse them along too. So
I did talk to Tim, and I briefed Tom, I gave him a quick overview, but for Chuck and Megs, so they understand, this was an interesting opportunity because it was through Tim's networking with other officials that he was able to understand the village of Saranac Lake, which they've worked with before. So the 2009 sweeper is in pretty decent, it's in immaculate condition. I asked about the hours and the mileage, and also what the lifespan beyond 2009 would be. But the sweeper is not a piece of equipment that would be used on a regular basis, and it's not something that's going to be one of the iconic ones that would be used for shared services at this point. So the only thing, he was trying to get some backup information for us about the breakdown of the, because again, this is not one that has to go out to bid because it's within the municipality, is that correct?
That is correct, I checked it today.
Okay, so,
And I had the opportunity to go out with Tim and Greg for a bit, and they showed me some of the purchases that they've been able to make through some of the online
yeah,
services.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The auctions, the
Yeah.
surplus, unbelievable what those guys are finding and
Yeah.
what they're saving the taxpayers. They're doing a great job with it.
So,
But one of
what's that,
the
man? Oh,
top things that allows them to do that is that they have the knowledge and experience with machinery and all the kinds of things that we need to use. And they have that experience, so they're able to find, oh yeah, this is a good one. So they've done a good job over the years.
Do you have a question, May?
No, I just wanted to say that Barb, you do such a good job of following up on the highway committee stuff. You always,
Well,
if there's something on the table within the highway or any of your committees, you always.
well, I appreciate that, but when we have purchases or expenditures, you
Yeah.
really got to go behind the scenes, and they're good too mutually about giving me a call if I'm on the road. I just said, call me while I'm on the road, and it's not a problem, but it is important, I think, to educate ourselves, and if we're not on a
Yeah.
committee, to know more about what's going on.
That's why I say that. I just appreciate
Okay.
it coming from you.
No problem.
To Tim's credit too, as a highway superintendent, there are a lot of different models that are out there, and I'll use the Association of Town. The first time I went to a training, it was like people wanted to share war stories of how they just did this with their highway superintendents. I never got that, why people would want, you know, kind of that friction
Mhm.
within their government. And there are some other towns in our county that, you know, are at odds sometimes, but, you know, we've been really fortunate that the supervisors, the board, you know, the highway departments. But I think one of the reasons that there's been a real benefit there is our highway superintendents have a legacy of, they're active. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're hands-on, they go out on the roads,
Mhm.
they're, you know, so they're flagging, they're digging ditches, they're,
Mhm.
you know, doing whatever it is. So,
Well, the
which is helpful.
1976 sweeper, the transmission blew, and you had to ask why, and so they were trying to figure out how they could retrofit that and make it work, but it really was beyond even any possible.
Yeah.
consider-
Problem solvers.
That's what I'm saying, it's like, well, who can we go to,
I
so.
believe there's not a lot of 1976.
But, 1976.
Transmissions out there.
Yes.
Yeah, once the transmission goes on that, and
Have to go right to the Smithsonian probably.
What's that? No, I'm just joking.
So anyway,
All right.
yeah, I think we can get rid of our
If your lungs
1800
don't have one,
things now and start moving up.
Yeah.
That's all I got for this evening, folks.
Okay.
6:20.